Welcome to GTC's Teaching Tidbits Blackboard Ultra. In this series, we explore a teaching technique, tip, practice, or idea to help expand your knowledge of and your comfort with using Blackboard Ultra. Well, joining me again today is Lee McMinn from the Curriculum and Instructional Support Center. And Lee has someone to introduce to us today, the newest member of CISC. So welcome, Lee. And do you want to introduce the new CISC member?
Sure. Thank you, Rachel. And we are honored and grateful to have Rebecca Roth on our team now. And she's doing an outstanding job, going to be helping out a lot with Blackboard and some instructional design. And I'm going to let Rebecca say hey and introduce herself.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you, Rachel. And hi, I'm Rebecca Roth. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I have moved over to CISC from the faculty side. I was previously the department head for transitional studies, where I worked or taught for 11 years and started as adjunct, then I was hired full-time and eventually became department head. I also teach art history for visual arts every now and then. And I am excited to be in CISC so that I can explore how I can further the online learning support team or further support faculty through their online learning support team and learn more about Blackboard and everything there. So, all right, thanks, Lee.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, we are so excited to have you joining CISC, Rebecca. Obviously, CPE and CISC work closely together. So I know Lee's excited to have you and the rest of the team, but we're also excited over here in CPE and glad that we could introduce you to our faculty in this new way so that because they may see you on some of these episodes moving forward. With Lee. Yes. Lee looks a little excited to be able to share that load. But we are grateful for Lee for being willing to do each of these episodes as we continue to try and just help everyone acclimate to Ultra, and with the new updates that are always coming, these episodes have become a great way to kind of feature or highlight the newest things that you might not have noticed, or you may have noticed something looks different, but didn't realize that was with the new batch of updates. So Lee is going to dive into the updates for April 2023 in this episode. And Lee, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your teaching tidbits.
Thank you, Rachel. Each month is a little different, and we get a different number of updates each month. April is fairly heavy, if you will. We've got a good number of updates coming. I'm going to turn my video off. So basically what we're looking at here for April are these 7 things that we're basically going to go over, and then I'm going to show you what's coming in May, and there's a bunch of new stuff coming in May as well. So the first thing we'll look at, you can read through the list here. I'm going to go through them in the order that we see them on the list. I'm not going to necessarily read through this list right now, but you can pause the video and read through it and see what we're going to look at this morning. All right. The first thing, of course, is the submission page sorting control. And what that is, when you go into the grade book, if you have it on the list view, it's going to show all those gradable items. And if you have submissions for one of those items, you would click on that item and it takes you to the submission page. Now, what we got last month was some great sorting controls at the main level. Now those sorting controls are going deeper into each of these pages in the grade book. So what we have coming here is now when you go into a submission that's for a specific gradable item, you can now sort by those columns in the submission page. And you see I have it highlighted in red here. So you can sort by any of these, as well as the filtering that you have. And this can be really helpful if you want to group all of your A's and B's and C's together so you can quickly see that. You can sort by the grade. You can sort by what needs to be graded and what doesn't, and those sort of things. So this is going to be a great help as you work through the grade book. Next thing we have is discussion navigation improvements. When you, before this month, before last Friday, when you went into the discussion area, basically you could select a forum and read through those, and then you had a tag at the top right where you could jump over to grade. Now what they've done is they've added a few things here. We have added some tabs. Blackboard has added some tabs at the top left. So if you're on the discussions, that's just looking at that particular forum. Once you go into the forum, that's basically that specific discussion board, you'll see these 3 tabs. The middle one is the student activity tab. And what you have here is this just gives you a big overview of the activity for that particular forum. And you can see how many students have replied. You get the average post per student. So if every student needs to do a post and a reply, that should be 2. You can see that all this information here. And then what they show below that top group is the top 5 that have been working in that particular forum. And then if the forum is set to be graded, you'll have the grade and participation tab. All that does is jump you over to the grade book for that particular forum where you can then start grading. All right, now, if the forum is not gradable, and you won't have that grade and participation tab, as you can see right here, that tab that was right there is missing because this particular forum is not gradable. All right. Another thing we have is a new access point to the student overview. Usually to get to the student overview, this is showing everything that student has done and worked on in the course. You would get there through the grade book. You would maybe jump over to the student view where it lists all the students, and then you would click on a specific student's name to see everything that student has done. You also, if you have progress tracking turned on, you would have this progress tab right here, which will show you where the student is in each of the modules, or what they've done, what they've completed and what they haven't, and those sort of things. Well, now we have 3 new ways that you can access this, as well as still through the grade book and the student list. The first is through the roster. If you click on the roster from the main content page on the left-hand side, you'll see your list of students. Whether you go to the list view or the grid view, here I'm looking at the list view. You can see that's what's selected right here. If you click on the student's name, it jumps you into that student overview page very quickly. If you go over to the messages area, all right, and you click on a message from a particular student, you'll see their name listed. Here's an example of Wilma Flintstone. I've clicked on that particular message, and you see at the top of that message that Wilma's name is a link where the red arrow is pointing. If you click on Wilma's name or that student's name, again, that jumps you over to that student overview page, so you can quickly get there from there. And then the last place is inside of discussions. When you go into that discussion forum, and then again, this is a specific forum. We can see here in this course, we're looking at the Yellowstone forum. When you see the responses down below, you'll see the student's name is a link. Again, when you click on that student's name, it's going to take you to this student overview page where you can see more information about that student. So now we've got 4 ways now to quickly access that student overview page. We also have a course activity report, some improvements there. This is through the analytics tab that you see here at the top. When you go to analytics, you've got 3 tabs. One of those is course activity. Looking at the list view, all right, you'll see the list of the student's name. This is just showing you their activity in the course with some generic information. You can see their overall grade. You can see how much time they've spent in the course and how many days of inactivity. When, like, if they haven't logged in the course in 5 days, it'll show inactivity 5 because it's been 5 days since they last logged in. You can check that out. From this page, you can also send messages. You see we have 3 students checked off here. That's what this 3 selected stands for right here. And with those 3 selected, I could click the send message button and I could send a message to those students that are selected. Now this goes out as a blind copy, which means if I have all 3 of these students selected, they don't know that the message went to anyone else other than them. So when they see who it's from or who it went to, it only goes to them. All right. One of the other big improvements here with the activity report is that it's accessible. So instructors, whatnot, if you have a screen reader that you're using and you're looking at this page, everything on this page is touched by accessibility. Anything you click on, like if you select multiple students, the screen will tell you have X number of students selected, however many you have. If you should put your pointer over the send message button, it'll tell you that, hey, you're on the send message button. So, and there are some keyboard shortcuts here. So all that is now here in the activity report. Jumping on, the next, they are continually improving the hotspot questions. All right, when the hotspot questions first came out several months ago, we were just limited to squaring, just putting a square or a rectangle around an item, and that covered very broad areas. Now what they've added the circle shape capability here. So now you can draw a circle around an item instead of just a square or a polygon. All right. The next thing they've also done is, this is looking at it from the instructor side when you're creating it. They've done some more distinct coloring as you select. And in this picture, this image, they are drawing a polygon around that particular image. And you can see the starting point is in dark blue, and they've given a little bit stronger color contrast as you draw the lines around the image. All right. The other thing they've done for students is, now when a student clicks on the image, all they have to do is click on the image and it sticks a pin on the image. Then they can drag that pin around. All right. It used to be the only way they could add a pin was to click add selection here, but now all the student has to do is click anywhere on the image and it'll stick a pin, and then they can drag that around. If they have multiple pins on the image, like you had multiple hotspots, the one that is selected will be in a white color with a blue outline, whereas all the other pins would be a dark blue with a white outline pin inside of it. So they've really improved and made some improvement here. And there's some more improvements coming in May, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Another thing is multiple grading schemas. This is really, really good, especially for those in healthcare, avionics and whatnot, that use the 7-point grading scale. So now what happens is, in a course, you can have up to 100 different grading schemas if you wanted that many. I don't know anybody that needs that many, but hey, you can if you want to. That's all I'm going to say there. But to get to it, you would go to the gradebook settings. At the top, you'll see the manage gradebook schemas. When you click on that, it's going to jump you into the gradebook schema page. And if you've looked at this in the past, you'll know this looks way different than what it used to. Now on the left, you have your grading schemas listed. By default, you're only going to have one, and that's going to be the letter schema. Generally, that's the 10-point scale, and that'll be displayed over on the right-hand side. You can create a new schema by clicking add. You can edit the current schema that you're looking at. Like here, I'm looking at the letter schema. I could edit any of these settings by clicking the 3 dots, or all you have to do is click on the item and it will pop it open into edit mode. If you wanted to create a new item, I'm going to show that here. Like I've created the 7-point scale. Let me erase some of my writing on this. So if I've created a 7-point, if I want to create a new band in here, there's little lines in between, just like we have in the content area in the grade book. Whenever you want to add something new, you click the circle with the plus in it, and that will create a new line in that grading schema, and you can set it up. Now, I do want to remind you, this has been a little confusing in the past. The top scale of any grade item is always matches the bottom scale of the one above it, if you will. All right. You won't be able to edit the top scale. What that means here, looking at this picture, is if a student has an 84.99999, it can go on forever, then they get a C. The minute it hits 85, then it jumps to a B. 85.000 forever, that's when it jumps to the next level up to a B. So if you want to round up, for example, you want a B to be at 84.5, then you would make the lower scale for B an 84.5. All right, just a little more information there. So be aware you can apply these. Now, where does this really going to be in effect? Generally on your overall grade. Remember, when you go to overall grade on the left-hand side, you can choose how is it displayed. Is it displayed by points, by percentage? And then it shows your grading schemas. That's basically is how it's going to show the letter grade. All right. So if you choose letter, it would be the default 10-point scale. If you created other schemas, those would be listed there that you could choose from. All right. So just be aware of that. And then the last thing that we're looking here is another really big thing for those of you that use the Blackboard Annotate when you're grading submissions, like for assignments and things like that. The feedback. Now, this feedback is the same whether you're giving feedback for discussions, any place you're giving feedback on a gradable item, this feedback has been improved. Before April the 6th or the first Friday in April, it was just a plain text box. All you could type in it was plain text. When this update came in, now look, you have a toolbar at the top of the feedback box. You can do text styling. All right. I'm not going to go into everything that it does because it's a long list on each one. Then the next item that you have is text options. All right, like fonts and font colors, or actually the text option is bold, italics, underline. You can do superscripts and subscripts and all that. You can even do code snippets in here. So if you had your students submit some programming and they did something wrong, those of you grading it for the feedback could click the code snippet and you can type in the code that maybe the student should have done, or give them feedback on their code, and it'll stay in that little grouping. So that's really good for our programming classes. We have lists now. You can do numbered lists, left align, right align, center align, all that fun stuff. And then the last thing is the more options, if you will, and you can see all that you can do here. You can do an attachment. Now, let me point out, if you do an attachment here, if you attach a file, this affects your course storage space. All right. So you probably don't want to attach a 400 megabyte PowerPoint in the feedback, because if you did that for every single student, you've just blown your storage space instantly. All right. So just be aware of that. You can do math equations. You can do images and media. Let me say these images and medias are just links to. So you could link to a video that you had on another site, or link to a video that you had in your Google Drive. All right. Or link to an image. These are not actually loading the image in the course. So in some ways that's good because it saves your storage space. The recording feature, if you want to give feedback doing that recording like we used to be able to do in original, here it is. You can also link to YouTube, and this cloud storage, this doesn't really mean much right now. You can connect to your Google Drive, but coming this summer, Microsoft OneDrive, Greenville Tech faculty and stuff, you already have it now, you just may not realize it, but we're going to turn on the integration with Microsoft OneDrive and Blackboard, and you can now have your files stored in Microsoft OneDrive and link to them, integrate that directly into Blackboard in lots of different ways. This is just one of them. All right. And we'll have more instruction coming this summer for that. So that's all that the new stuff that we have here that came out in April. It's a lot of good stuff. Just as a quick preview, again, I'm not going to read through all of these, but this is what's coming in May. You can see it's a long list. All right. Big things that you're probably going to really like and want to know about is question banks. You can reuse questions, and guess what? You can now take a question out of a test and move it to a question bank. So you can reuse it that way and have it for all future courses. You'll be able to do exceptions and exemptions first in the grid view of the grade book. That's really great things coming. You'll be able to send messages from the submission page that we talked about earlier for an assignment. So you could group all those that haven't submitted, select them, and send them. This is kind of our first step toward getting the reminders. So you can group them all together, choose send a message, and send them all a reminder. All right. Hotspot questions, again, that improvement, zooming in, zooming out. I said I wasn't going to read through all of them, but here I am reading through most of them. But this is what we have coming in May. We'll talk more about that in our next teaching tidbits when we talk about our May updates. And Rebecca will probably be doing some of these as well. We're going to start tag teaming. All right. So, Rachel, that is all that I have for our updates in April. And I hope the faculty start using some of these great new tools.
Wow, Lee, thanks. When you said there were some great updates for April, I believed you, but wow, I was excited at the very beginning, and then it just kept getting better and better. I don't even use the hotspot questions. I haven't had the opportunity to, but I think the last couple, there's been some kind of update to those, and it's really neat to see how they're just unlocking some of these advanced abilities that I think are going to make it so much easier for faculty. I think that one of the biggest things that I was excited about is just all the access points to get to the student overview.
Right.
That's going to save so much time from clicking the box and going back out and going back to, the grade book or.
Right.
So, I mean, each one of those is excited. And actually, I was looking through the list for May, and I cannot wait for the May episode now because I want to see all these things. And now I have increased hope about that reminder in the grade book, because that's the biggest thing that I miss from the grade book, is being able to just click that little send reminder to the students. So I'm glad to see there's a little bit of movement in that direction.
Right. And it is really good, those things. Like I said, I don't use the hotspot questions that much either, but I can tell you biology, a lot of our health sciences course use that. Several others are using it depending. And once I think we get the zoom in and zoom out that comes next time, that's really I think our hotspot questions are going to be done as far as improvements go, unless they come up with some little things here and there. The student overview page too, we probably should do a lesson on that, because there is so much great information, and we haven't even gone into the progress report of each student. And there's so much you can get that can really help you see how a student is doing. Or a student says, well, what can I do better to improve myself in the course? Well, you pull up that progress, say, well, you're not spending much time in the course. Spend some more time with the material and that sort of stuff. So there's lots of good things that we can get that's really going to help us improve our retention and improve our student progress, I think.
Yeah, and those are a couple good ideas that maybe we do some breakout, more zoomed in episodes just on some of these specific features. For faculty to kind of go more in depth with those, and maybe get some tips on how to best use those that'll save them some time in the trying to play around and figure it out. So I'm making some notes so we can do some follow-up episodes there. Not to put more on Lee's plate or Rebecca's plate, but we certainly do appreciate you being here and sharing about these updates. Rebecca, we're so glad to have you as part of the CISC now, and excited to have you in some of these episodes moving forward. And for those of you who are watching, as always, because if you've met Lee, there's always an invitation to reach out to him with any questions, to continue the conversation. His email's here on the screen, lee.mcminn@gvltec.edu. But also CISC has a wonderful team over there. So if you email them at their team email, cisc@my.gvltec.edu, one of the members or more of the team will reach out to you, connect with you, and really get you the assistance that you need. So if there are certain topics that you've seen highlighted in these update episodes that you'd really like us to kind of deep dive into, go ahead and send me an email and I'll make a note of that, and we will set that on our schedule to do. My email's rachel.cobb@gvltec.edu. That's RACHEL.Cobb, COBB, at gvltec.edu, and we will definitely get some deep dive episodes for you on those requested topics. Well, that's this month's GTC Teaching Tidbits Blackboard Ultra, and we will see you in May for the May updates.